today's video. I haven't done one of these in a long time, but we're going to do a walkthrough of my 50 plus fish tanks and the ponds, and we'll just run through. It might be a long video. We're going to run through all the tanks, what's in the tanks, plants or livestock, and just show you guys where I've been this year as far as tanks. And it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I did not clean any single tank to do this video, so you're going to see algae and detritus and all that stuff, but let's get into it. All right, we're starting in my office, I guess. This is the 55. This is an acrylic tank that I got for free, that I restored, and I'll just explain what's in here. There are maybe 6 super red plecos. You can see one there. There is a trio of Parkinsoni rainbow fish, and the main stars of this tank are this brilliant bristlenose plecos. It's a breeding group. I think there's somewhere around 10. I forget it off the top of my head. But in this tank is sand substrate and 2 Amazon swords. It's running a canister filter and 2 box filters. These box filters were mainly put in there to remove all this fine sand particles. This sand was terrible. It's the black diamond blasting sand, and it's the fine. Do not use the fine. This whole tank's going to get rescaped because this is what I use in the back of my live streams, and I just want it to look nice. I want to get the box filters out, but they're currently just serving the purpose of cleaning up the water. And you can see how much sand this thing actually pulls out. Like, it's filling up the filters. There's one of the brilliant bristle nose. But this tank, you know, it's very fun for me to watch, especially with these rainbows. And yeah, so that's tank 1. And then I'm going to flip around. We're going to look at tank number 2. All right, so I said this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. This tank only has some snails in it. This used to have a betta fish in it a long time ago, and it's been sitting empty. It's an aqua top. I think it's like 4 or 5 gallons, or not 5 gallons, but it's under 4 gallons. And there's no heater in it. It's just room temperature. All I really do is add water, and I add some food. You can see there's a pink ram's horn right there. There's a couple down there in the bottom. But this is a tank that I need to redo, and it's got a Fluval Nano light on it and a Phoenix Nano hang on the back. But really nothing going on with this tank. It's got some crypts in it, and I'm just letting it kind of chill until I figure out what to do with it. All right, moving out into the family room. This is the no heater Barbados Cory catfish tank. There's a breeding group of 6 in there, and if you've been following the channel, you know I've been trying to breed these guys all year, and I finally got some fry this past weekend. And it's on an auto feeder, and it's got some moss in it, and really not too much going on with it. It's just to breed them, and there's ram's horns in it. Right next to it, this is a 75-gallon community tank. These are pretty much all rescue fish. Almost all but the kissing gouramis from Ohio Fish Rescue. That gourami was from a local guy that was moving. This originally was a cichlid tank, and this is a concrete waterfall that I made out of styrofoam. That's not in use, obviously, but it's got 2 fancy goldfish, the pink kissing gourami. These guys are giant danios. There's 3 red-eye tetras and 1 black skirt tetra. This tank has been up and running probably for let's say about 4 years now, and all I really do is water changes. There's only 1 plant in here. It's that Nubius. That was actually one of my first plants I ever bought. And the cichlids, it used to have a bunch of plants. The cichlids basically tore everything up, and then with the goldfish, they root everything up as well. But this tank also needs redone, and it's running just a canister filter and 2 heaters and then an air stone. So this tank is also not heated. This has 2 axolotls. They're from Ohio Fish Rescue. The water looks kind of tinted because there's tannins in the water. There's driftwood here. That's one piece, and there's some other pieces in here. They breed in this tank. Like I said, no heater. It does have a sponge filter, which is mainly for oxygenation of the water. And then I was doing some testing with using a hang-on back breeder box, and it's got some moss in it, using that as extra filtration. It's got duckweed to help pull nitrates out of the water. Axolotls also like low light. This is a Fluval Nano light with a custom adapter I made to fit a rimmed tank. And that light's not on full blast because, once again, they don't like a ton of light. The duckweed helps shade them. And then inside we have Anubias and Crips. And they've been doing really well with, you know, colder water and lower light. Not a super pretty tank, but it serves its purpose to help breed these guys, make them feel comfortable. They dug a cave out under these rocks. Where's my finger? So there's actually a cave that they dug that goes underneath this wood, and they actually get underneath these rocks whenever they want to, you know, feel more comfortable. But this is a 20 long. Alright, this tank is like a 25 gallon, I believe. It's a Fluval. This was one of the first tanks I bought after my 75. I thought it was kind of cool. It's before I got into really hobby keeping, being more serious. But it's got like a built-in filter compartment, and that's where like the heater is. This is a no filter aquarium. That filter hasn't been used in probably a year and a half. It does have an air stone. The lid has like a built-in light underneath, which is not super powerful, so it's kind of hard to grow stuff. You know, this is Java fern. This was also one of my first plants. It's hanging in there. It's not really thriving. I haven't been doing too good with Java fern, but there's also some Anubias and some jungle val. But it's just got a community of guppies. There's some Amano shrimp in here. There's an Amano shrimp right there on the rock. This rock is actually like a little cave structure. I made this. This is out of foam and concrete. Just something I was bored and wanted to make like a rock structure. And there's also my pea puffer. He's over here. Where'd he go? There he is. He's back there, kind of center of the screen. This tank was getting really overrun with all these pest snails. You can see them all over the glass. So I popped him in here, and he's been taking care of all the snails. And yeah, so would he eat the guppy fry? I'm sure once the snail population runs out, he would. But he's way happier in this community tank than the solo tank he was in. But this is another tank. I don't clean the glass. I just let it run. There's some Amano shrimp on that back wall. But yeah, just no filter, and everything's doing good. Really, I just do water top-offs on this. I did do a water change probably about a week ago, and that was the first water change probably of this year. Other than that, it's just been top-offs. There's the puffer. He's definitely fat and happy in here. It's going to be hard to focus with all the guppies, but all right, let's move on. All right, this is my fry rack. So this is a sump system. It's got a 10-gallon sump. It's got the heater. There's a water pump, obviously, and a ton of filtration in it. It's got bio balls and a bunch of media pads. That 10 gallons full of filters side to side. I've been using this for basically the rainbow fish, and the water pumps up through this tube and basically does a loop, and then it comes back into itself. at the top of the loop are the airline drops. We're actually using those for water, and that feeds each tank. And then each tank has a drain, and it hits this pipe and it drains back down to the sump. I can control basically how much water flows through the system using this valve. If I want less water going through the lines, I just open this valve more and it basically bypasses it. But we'll kind of check out these tanks. These are plastic, they call them critter keeper tanks from, shoot, I forget the Lee's makes them. They're super easy, they're all drilled with bulkheads. But working with plastic, it was way quicker to drill all these tanks, keep them smaller, and they're really inexpensive. But in this tank right here, and then also before I get into the fish, I put plants in here that I sell because each row has a shop light, which is extremely high light. It's just 8 inches above the water line, and it's very powerful, so it's extremely high light. But with stocking this system kind of heavily at times and having the high light, the plants can really start thriving. But I use this to grow out plants, get them from immersed grown to submerged grown, and this is the best way I have found out to do it. You can see this Anubias right here shooting roots all over the place. But this tank's got the pictas right there. I wrote it down. Pink's ram horns. And when the tanks have a lot of snails in them, glass is super clean. This one you can see doesn't have ram's horns, so you can't really see into the tank that well. But this has a pair of Parkinsoni rainbows. This has Eric Robertsoni, I believe is what it is, rainbows. And I just put a couple ram's horns in here the other day, so they're working on cleaning everything up. This tank is basically dwarf hairgrass. I took some of the hairgrass out of a pot and put it in and shooting runners. I'm just basically trying to use this as a hairgrass, like grow out tank, I guess would be the way to put it. And it's got no fish, but well, let me rephrase that. It's got the Barbados Cory fry in here. I have no idea where they're at. They're really tiny. There's about 7 in there somewhere. All right, moving down. This tank, I believe, is empty. It's got a couple plants in there. I know it's kind of hard to see everything. This tank is also empty, but it's got the ram's horns. So, the glass is clean. So what I need to do is start moving some of these over and let them catch up on cleaning that tank. I just put some ram's horns in this tank, so they're working on cleaning the glass. This has quite a few Parkinsoni rainbows. It's just a grow out tank. This tank I think had fry in it. Maybe this is not the tank I'm thinking about. But another tank that I just put some ram's horns in, they're working on it. This tank has a mop with rainbow eggs in it. I just put the whole mop in there, let the fry hatch, and then pull the mops out. This tank has, this is I think mixed rainbows. I forget the exact ones that are in here. You can kind of see some there through the plants in the back. And then this tank's empty, also working on cleaning it up. But yeah, and this tank this system is heated. And the sump heats all the water, so all the water going to these tanks are heated. All right, so this is in my kitchen. This was a tank I originally had brine shrimp growing out in, and last winter I used it for my tequila sunrise guppies that were out in the pond so they can overwinter inside. And I started bringing them back in from the pond. These are all ones that were hatched, or not hatched, but were birthed, because guppies are live airs. In the pond this year, it's just running a heater and a box filter, and there's some hornwort floating, and really not much going on with this. But I'm thinking I might actually scape this tank and put more plants in it, because the stocking in this is going to go up once I start breaking down the outdoor pond. But this is just a 10-gallon tank. This tank is a hot mess, and it always is, because this has a breeding group of emerald cories, and they splash the top water all the time, and the water comes out and it runs down, and so the glass is always dirty. I can clean it every single day, but it just always stays dirty. There's a lone betta fish in here, does fine with the cories, you know, no issue there. There's some ram's horn snails. They keep the glass really clean. The water is slightly tinted due to the driftwood, and this is a Fluval C. This was originally a salt tank that I had, and then I went back to freshwater with it. There's supposed to be a cover on here. I have it off because of this light. This is a Phoenix Stingray clip-on light. There is a light that's built into this for corals, and honestly I haven't tried it to see what it would do. There's just some moss in here, but because there's really no plants other than that moss, I do water changes on this tank to keep the temperature, or not keep the temperature, but to keep the nitrates low. The heater is in the back compartment. It's got a compartment full of filter material, and then there's a third compartment which was for a skimmer for salt water, and instead of using that, I have it packed full of bio balls. But I'm gonna go on the other side. This is on my kitchen island. I'll go on the other side so we can try to look at the fish. All right, so you can see the tank is still really dirty even on this side. Well, there's the fish. These guys are super fat, which is awesome. And this female right there, I know it sucks with the glare, but she is also super chunky. These guys are super awesome. So this will be my next breeding project. I'm just trying to get the Barbados cories to go and get some fry that are viable and growing up, and then I'm gonna focus on these guys. These guys lay eggs in here. I just haven't pulled them to work with them yet, but it's definitely on my to-do list. And they like chilling under this wood. They kind of dig out under this driftwood back here, but I know that there's a glare and there's water spots all over, but like I said, it's impossible to keep this tank clean. And then I got a Nubius starting to sprout up. All right, into the fish room. This is a working fish room. I sell out of it, so it is kind of messy. But we're going to start with rack system 1. This was the first rack I ever made when I decided to get into more and more fish. These are 10-gallon tanks. These are 20 longs. They all run Matten filters. There's one air pump underneath the rack that supplies water, and then supplies air. Water comes off this 55, and there's drops with valves I can control. If I open all these valves, I can shut this valve off, and if all these lines are open, I can do water changes on all 5 tanks at once by just opening that valve. But currently I leave that open, and then I control it all individually through these guys right here. So first tank, this was the pea puffer tank, and you can tell there's a ton of snail shells. Basically I would just pull snails out of other tanks, put them in here, and they go to town. The plants that are in here, that's a Java fern and just some moss. These had a ton of snail eggs, and I was trying to clean them up, so anything that I wanted to be snail free, I just put in the tank with the puffers, and they would eat all the snails once they hatched. This tank is empty. There's nothing in here. There's a couple snails somewhere that are still alive. There's some empty shells that caught air in them. That's why they're floating. But this tank's getting broken down, and this whole rack's going to go away once I do the garage build. All right, next tank. This had 3 Gardneri females and a male. Trying to get the glare. I'm down to, I think, 1 female now. They're 2.5 years old. They're definitely at the end of their life cycle, and yeah, so not much. She's just kind of living out her life in here, and yeah. So this tank has LRB coal shrimp. You can see some shrimp. There's a few on this mat and filter. It might be kind of hard to see. It has a hang-on breeder box, and I had moss in here, and the reason I have this is when I was selling shrimp really heavily, and there's duckweed in here, but before there was duckweed, I would just pull some moss from this breeder box. It made it real easy for me to grab moss to put in the shrimp bags, because when you sell shrimp and ship them, they need something to hang on to. But other than that, there's just shrimp and snails in this tank, and it's another tank that eventually will go away, but it needs to be worked with. It's 20 long, hasn't had anything in it for probably well over a year. There's, you know, maybe some pest snails in there, but as you can tell, the glass is completely covered. Can't see anything in there. But yeah, there's no livestock or anything in there. And I know you're just seeing glare. This is what I call the OG red shrimp tank. So this thing is basically a jungle now. And this is where I originally started my red cherry shrimp line. And it was thriving, and then it kind of crashed to where the shrimp weren't really repopulating that much. So they got moved into a 55, which is behind me. There's still some shrimp in here, probably not that many, and honestly I don't even see any right now, but this tank is so overgrown. But the thing is I really love the overgrown look. So this is a jungle valve. This tall plant is jungle valve. There was some Java fern in here. I don't know, like I see a Java fern leaf there. It's probably in the back. I think that's it right there. But look at the Christmas moss. And the Christmas moss, I always tell you guys, like, I have no problem growing it. This is the Christmas moss, this big clump. And with my shrimp, I always do rock piles of lava rock. And this tank was doing really well for about 2 years. And after about 2 years, it kind of was resetting itself. But when I saw Jungle Valve on the website, this is the tank I pull it from, because it's always shooting new runners. And my last order, you can see I pulled it from right here. That's why there's clean looking sand and a bare spot. So top 5 tanks feed the middle row, which feeds that tank on the end, and then the water travels through a zigzag pattern through each tank. The bottom tanks only have plants in them, if they have anything in them at all. And I haven't been adding new plants to the bottom because of the plan of breaking everything down. These middle tanks, this has a pair of convict cichlids, and I told you I got rid of them all. I kept some, but the ones I needed to get rid of, I got rid of. But this has a pair of convict cichlids. They killed all the snails, that's why the glass is all covered. And these tanks are heavily planted. There's Christmas moss, there's Anubias, the jungle valve, pearlweed. This tank had buffalo head cichlids that I sold off, and it's got some mosquito fish in it, which is the gambusia, and they're just kind of chilling in here. There's more of that Christmas moss. I tell you guys, it grows like crazy for me. This tank is a Christmas moss grow out. That's all it has. I did have German blue rams in here, but I sold them off. So it's an empty tank with Christmas moss. This tank up here has some, these are the Phoenix rasboras. They are super tiny, but they're super awesome. Moving along, some more Phoenix rasboras. They're just split out into 2 different tanks. And then this tank's got a soul black neon, and I just saw him when I started filming. I don't know where he's at. There's all that Christmas moss. I'm trying to block the glare. The Christmas moss, he hides really well. I'm going to flip around. This is the indoor pond. This was strictly to grow out plants. It got some duckweed in it, and then you know with duckweed, it just covered everything. But I pretty much have all the plants out of here now. But I did put some shrimp in here a long time ago, and I didn't think anything about it, like if they were still doing good. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. I mean, there's a shrimp right there in the middle, right there. I was hoping I'd be able to see. Oh, looking through my phone. There's a shrimp. Kind of hard. I can see one moving right there. That's shrimp. Let me zoom out. And over here is a bunch of hornworm. Oh, I see a red Rilly. My hands are all wet now, so it's hard for me to try to zoom. Right there is a red Rilly. Over here, this side is full of hornwort. And this is what the shrimp are eating on, because this thing just fills up full of biofilm. And there's a ton of hornwort. So that's why these shrimp are doing good in here. Try to wash my hand off. Alright, below the wooden pond, this is a 55. It's got aquarium lily plants and Christmas moss. It's a big ball. Just threw a chunk in there and it just really expands out. But this tank has my blue dream shrimp in it. It's going to be hard to see them, but they're in there. And ram's horns. A lot of times I can flip these leaves up and we can find some shrimp. Because a lot of times these leaves, they cover each other, and then the one underneath dies, which is why there's all these snails right there. But usually there'll be shrimp. I'm trying to like look and then also look through the camera. But this tank needs pruned. I need to go through and cut back a bunch of these leaves. Nope, there's some shrimp. You see them zigging around. And this tank just started with a bunch of lava rock and the Christmas moss. Alright, this is what I call the import rack. This is originally where I kept all the fish that I imported to keep them off the other systems. This was quarantine, so I can really monitor what was coming in. This first tank has Harlequin rasboras, and I also just saw a solo glow light tetra in there. But Harlequin rasboras, and then these guppies these are the Vienna guppies from Aquarium Co-op. I got these through Jimmy, and you see these males are super awesome. They're just, the pattern on them is sweet, but I need to work on getting those guys into their own tank and really get them breeding. All these tanks have sand in them, but nothing really crazy as far as plants. But this is where I also put plants in there. You know, there's banana plants in here. And I found with the banana plants, if you float them, you really get some good roots because it's trying to find substrate. So you can get good roots going, and then you can plant the roots and they do really well. This tank has the blue tuxedo guppies, and you can see for blue tuxedos, there's some that are shooting reds, so it would need to be cold to really keep that line going, but it really wasn't an interest. But I'll show you what my plan is for those guys. This tank's got some CPDs, which are kind of swimming in the background there. I don't know. There it goes. It focused a little bit. It's got CPDs in it, and just a few albino cories left. And then mothballs are in the back. This tank has assassin snails, which are these guys right there, and maybe a couple bristlenose. Yep, there's one right there on top of the sponge filter. These are the hobbyist bred ones I get from up by Cleveland. So this tank down here, these are the glow light tetras, and these guys are getting really fat and happy. I've had them a long time, and I think that's all that's in here. Oh, there's a couple pygmy cories. Let's see if I can zoom in. There's one sitting there. Those are the not the habrosus, but just the regular pygmy pygmaeus, and I think there's a couple in there. These are the glow light tetras. Super awesome. Moving over these guys, so these are diamond tetras, and these things are really aggressive feeders. I go put food in and they swarm it. They're very, very pretty. That they get their name because they get that diamond sheen to them. There's a couple pilatus cories, which are the salt and pepper cories. There's one right down there. And then I just noticed there's an Odessa barb in here. Where'd he go? I saw, up there he is, right there. So that guy hopped tanks, so he's not supposed to be in here, but there's an Odessa. Moving over, so these were green cobra guppies that I crossed with a male tuxedo guppy. Or female. You can see these females, they're big. Well, if I can get, let me see if I can get on video. So these cobras, I don't know how well that's shown up. Their top fin starts getting this blue colored, and some of them are very, very, very blue. And this is a line I want to work on. I want to get that cobra pattern. So like the tail, you're starting to get that cobra. But I want the blue. Let's see if I can find. These guys don't really have what I'm trying to show you. But the blue top fin is what I'm trying to work on. And this tank's got some crypts in it and scarlet temple. Next tank we got a lone zebra Daniel, but this is the Odessa barb tank. You see them all in the back. So focus. They like to hang in the back. They don't want to come forward. They never actually come forward. They always hang back in all these crypts. And these crypts I need to get on the website because these things are getting big. They're doing really, really, really well. And the last tank over here, this has some Serpe tetras, which are these guys in the back, and some zebra Danios, which are the guys on the top. And I know this box filter fell over. I'll fix it when I go to clean it. And then the last tank that's in here is, I call this the antifreeze tank. So this is a green water tank. It's a 55, and this has red cherry shrimp in it. You would never know. You wouldn't know that this thing is full of moss, because when it comes to green water, this thing is as green water as you can go. And I find that with green water, it really makes everything thrive. The plants seem to still do really well, and the shrimp do really well, but there's, I mean, you can't see in this at all. But there is a ton of moss in here. A ton. It's just so green that you wouldn't know. So the problem with this is, now I moved it, you can kind of see the moss up here. It's impossible, obviously, to catch anything out of here. So I'm letting this go, probably over winter, letting the populations basically boom, and then I'll start removing the green water by doing water changes and blacking out the light. The way I get this is I feed food, and I leave the shop light on 24 hours a day, and then I always get green water doing that. But green water is really good for fry. I guess I should mention this. I didn't really plan on this being like a tank, but this is the Zis brine shrimp hatchery, and currently in it is Barbados cory eggs. So I'll have to keep my eye on it, and hopefully they hatch out. But I've already got one batch to hatch. I did a video. This is my continuing along the lines of getting those fish. Alright guys, this is the last thing I wanted to show you. This is the 500-gallon outdoor pond. It's just a Intex pool. I think it was right around $100, and I've done videos on this before, and it's getting cold out, so I need to break this thing down. It's got plywood on it because I was providing shade to help keep the sun directly off of the fish. But this has tequila sunrise guppies. I've had for a few years, and they breed out every summer out here. Green water, I don't do water changes on it. I just do water top-offs if needed. That is an aquascape biofalls, I believe is what it's called. It's full of lava rock, and there is a media pad in it. I'm not filtering for quality, I'm just filtering for beneficial bacteria. It's running a Jabo DC pump, and it basically pulls water through the side filter guy that you would use for the pool. And then yeah, I had water lettuce sitting up here, but everything's dying off because it's getting cold, and we're probably not going to see any fish because it's cold. But I'll just look real quick to see if I saw any, but I don't see anybody. I have plenty of videos. I've done live streams out here that you'd be able to see the fish. But this will be I guess one of the next videos of draining this down and getting the fish out. But if you haven't done an outdoor pond, I really recommend you doing one. You don't have to do it like this. You know, I got privacy fence. My neighbors can't see this. They don't care. But you can start small. You can use a trash can or a pot. But I definitely recommend trying to do some outdoor summer tubbing. This is not decoration. This is purely to breed fish to sell for a profit. If it was something I wanted to do as just as a hobbyist, maybe I decorate this and, you know, make it look nice. But this is purely function over form. I needed a body of water to breed fish, so that's the last tank, I guess, or pond. And yeah. All right, guys. So like I said, the good, bad, the ugly. I didn't clean a single tank. That's how the tanks look, and it's algae on the glass doesn't bother me. Algae's there because it's eating nutrients out of the tank. But that's all of my tanks I have currently right now that are up and running in some sort of form or function, including the two ponds, the plywood pond indoors and the Intex pond that's outdoors. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you watched it, you liked it, you see what's going on. And now that it's starting to get cold out, there'll probably be more videos coming from me here in the future. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see ya.